So just moving into a company overview, this will be brief. For those of you who don't know, Atlassian helps teams in every company turn their ideas into products. So at the moment, 35,000 companies, that's an incorrect number there on the slide, count on Atlassian products to generate ideas, track a workflow and execute a product if it's a piece of software. This year, well, the previous financial year that just closed on the 30th of June, we did about $230 million in revenue at a profit. We've been around since 2002, so for many of you, we could be a new or a recent name, but we've been around for a few years now. Essentially, we've got 3 product groups and 16 products amongst those groups, and they're across collaboration tools, workflow tools, and developer tools. In our collaboration tool set, you may have heard of our products Confluence, which is an enterprise wiki, HipChat, which is a chat tool, a messaging tool, which works across your desktop, mobile, and tablet. It's free, by the way, so if you haven't tried it, no risk. Workflow tools, so our most popular and oldest product is a product called JIRA. That's where JIRA Service Desk sits. It also has an agile project management tool within that product set. And our developer tools. So once you've created an idea and try to manage a project, if you're building a piece of software, we've got a few tools in that space. Our most popular one is a social coding platform called Bitbucket. You may use LinkedIn for corporate social networking or Facebook for personal social networking. If you're a small team, you want to build a piece of code and share it with your friends or counterparts, you'll hop onto Bitbucket. And if you want to have that same functionality in your office, you can look at Stash, which is another Atlassian product. And there's a few more there for continuous integration and so forth. So at the moment, we've got in excess of 900 employees worldwide. We're about to hit 1,000, and by the 1st of July, we're hoping to have 1,500 people. So we're hoping to service you better and build better products over the next 12 months. 85 of the Fortune 100 use Atlassian products. Sydney is our headquarters. Australia is our home. So thanks for your support. I know there's been some talk in the press. We moved our holding company to the UK with a view to list on the US Stock Exchange in a few years, but we're an Aussie success story. Our founders are in Sydney and are located in Sydney, and as we say in the office, this is Cupertino. So Australia is where we build our products. We also have marketing headquarters in San Francisco and regional offices in Amsterdam, Tokyo, and Austin. So building an enterprise software company, we've needed to have locations around the world. So from a support perspective, what this means for you in Melbourne is, doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter what day of the week, Atlassian can help you out. So there'll be always somebody you can get in touch with as long as you have the right support level on your product. Now, we make enterprise software, but we don't sell like other software vendors. So today's a real opportunity for you to engage us and speak to some people if you have some product questions, but you won't see an Atlassian sales rep knocking on your company's door and approaching you, and this is our model. So what separates us from traditional software or enterprise software companies? Well, what's happening in enterprise software is the sales model is evolving from a high-touch model, an offline-based model, to a customer self-service model. So what you've become accustomed to over the past few years, we moved from online shopping as being perceived as something to be a risk, so is your company. And we're seeing this in other organisations, not just Atlassian. So many of you are deploying AWS within your businesses, for instance. you can get up and running with a credit card and spin up a server within minutes on their services. You can do the same with many other SaaS products within your organisation, and it's now perceived to be safe. Atlassian's one of those companies that works in the same manner. Now, what tends to happen in traditional enterprise sales, essentially what the organisation is trying to do is gauge what kind of pain you're suffering and then have a value exchange in terms of money. What's your problem? Do we have something to solve it? And how much is that worth to you to solve? So what tends to happen is a customer visits your website or their website, does some information gathering, but the information stops at a point. And then you have to engage a sales team. Then that sales team works out what value they can derive from or control within that transaction. There's also an incentive for them to introduce friction, so to put barriers in front of you and try to work this out, slow that process down. Atlassian's got a customer self-service model. A customer visits our website. We'll arm you with information as much as we can. We really hope that the product does the selling. So we live and die by the quality of our product. And hopefully then you've got confidence in us to buy. So this is why you'll see the pricing for our products on our website. You'll be able to go and download, try and play around with the product if you like. We're not going to hold those things back from you. So I guess, you know, in the old way, if you were looking to buy a piece of enterprise software 15 years ago, it was always hard to try and deploy. It was expensive. 7-figure transactions were the norm, and still are in some areas. It's top down, so often it was sold at the CIO level. And it took 12 months to derive value. The business was mostly offline. Want to get a license key? Well, somebody's going to have to send that to you. Maybe even do that on a disk. What we try to do is we try to empower the user, give them as much as they can so they can do it themselves. Our licenses, or some of our products, are free. And we try to make the user happy, build our products as best we can. And we expect you to be up and running within the first 3 months if you try an Atlassian product. So, and most of it's online. So, thanks for your time. I'm going to hand over now to Edwin. Edwin's the product manager for JIRA Service Desk, and he's going to talk about that product in more detail.
Hey guys, thanks Daniel. So I'm Edwin, the Group Product Manager for Service Desk. So firstly, welcome. Thanks for having me here in Melbourne. Seems like the weather gods have been really kind to us, because Sydney hasn't had the same luxury these couple of days. We've been absolutely drenched. So just a quick show of hands to start off with. Who's got JIRA here? Who's got JIRA running in your organization? Wow. Who has tried Service Desk or have Service Desk? Lots of you. In that case, I'm done. I can go home. So see you later. No, let me tell you a little bit more. I think it is a Service Desk event, so you guys all came and you guys are obviously interested in that product. So I'm going to put this slide up again because I didn't know Daniel was going to steal my thunder. No, just kidding. So Atlassian. I think Service Desk goes a lot back to what Atlassian is all about, right? And Atlassian, at the heart of it, is all about helping innovators build great software together, right? So, as Daniel said, we already have 35,000 innovators worldwide as our customers that we have the opportunity and the luxury to help, right? And so that is really the heart of our business. Innovation, right? Innovation is the bread and butter of what we do. As Daniel was saying, product won't sell itself, and of course we need to innovate to do great products. Now, one of the examples of innovation at Atlassian is 20% time. So, who's heard of Ship It? Who's heard of hackathons? There you go. So, Ship Its are like hackathons, but what you may not realize is that the concept of hackathon Now, this may be a dubious claim, but we claim that Atlassian invented the concept of hackathons. So I'm not sure if you guys agree with that or not, but that is the dubious claim that we'd like to make. What's interesting, of course, is that in the years past, Google have come up with 20% time. I think 3M had a 15% time. So there were lots of companies that were doing really exciting stuff for innovation, right? Now, why we lay claim to this idea of hackathon was that when Atlassian started, we were too poor to afford 20% time of our employees to go do stuff, right? It was too expensive, we couldn't do it. So hackathon, which today we call Ship It in Atlassian, is really a really cut down version of that. It is effectively a 24-hour exercise that we run every quarter. And why we do that? We want to give developers an opportunity to really express themselves and express innovation. Right? It's about scratching the itches they have. It's about fostering creativity. It's about finding new ways of solving problems in a radical kind of approach, right? And ultimately, it's all about fun. So here's a screen cap of one of the presentations that we did at the end of the hackathon. So there's a 24-hour event. Teams form, come up with ideas, talk about it, build it, and then get to present it all within that 24 hours. And this is the kind of the final presentation where they do the awards, right? Now it's great because our developers, and I hope I'm not offending any developers in this audience here, are typically a little bit introverted, right? When we have our team, some of them are like, oh, we're gonna hold our ideas to ourselves. So this is a great way for us to really also bring out the other sides of a character from our developers, from building the business case, to thinking creatively, to leadership, right? To bringing the team together, to think about all aspects of what true customer value means. Now, I've gone on and on and on about our Ship It days, and you may be wondering, what on earth has this got to do with Service Desk? Well, that is because Service Desk started as a Ship It exercise. So as one of the finalists, I'm not even sure if they won that year. I don't think they did. I can't remember actually. But one of the Ship It ideas was a new way to present JIRA for Service Desk use, right? So I've just told you the story of the origin to Service Desk. Interesting thing there to note is the team of 4 who did it. It included a founder, so it had a little bit more. Scott, one of our founders, had a little bit more of an input on that. But what we really wanted to focus on was the idea of experience, right? So I'm going to come back to that a lot more later in this presentation. So Service Desk. For this half of the room, which seem to have heard about Service Desk, maybe you're very, very familiar with what Service Desk is all about. But very quickly, for maybe this half of the room of you who are not familiar with Service Desk, you can all kind of sort of guess. At the heart of it, it's fairly simple, right? It's about the typical kind of IT requests that you may get on an IT service desk. So this guy here is Ryan. He's one of our finance guys. He's really, really smart. He's great at figuring out all those financing things. But he's not really coordinated, especially when it comes to his coffee and his keyboard. So typical engagement, how do you go to the service desk? How does he ask for a new keyboard? How does the service desk team then provide him with a new keyboard, hopefully one that is coffee-proof for the next time? What's interesting is that when we actually looked at this use case, right, the service desk use case amongst our Atlassian customers, amongst our JIRA customers, we found that 38% of them, we did a couple of surveys and the numbers were very eerily similar, like 38, 39% of them all came back and said, you know what, we use JIRA for our service desk already. So this was before we built the product. So this was before we had any offering, before we tried to do anything in that space. Lots of our customers told us, hey, JIRA is a great product for service desk. And we're like, oh, that's interesting. Why is that? Right? Because if you look at the service management space, there's obviously a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of competitors. There's lots of things that are available. But our customers said, we want to use JIRA because it actually has all the right bits to it. Well, almost all the right bits anyways. So we then said, oh, okay, well that's interesting. And we went out to the industry and we looked around. And what we found even more interesting was that there's a bit of an industry trend going here. There's a bit of an opportunity for us here. And this is a McKinsey report, a very recent one. And the big takeaway for us here was that they showed the difference in the productivity levels between a high-performing IT team versus a low-performing IT team, and they found that the productivity difference was significant, right? 4 to 10 times difference, right, is what it means. Right? So if you can think back to your teams, your IT teams, and think, hey, you know what? What if our IT team could be 4 to 10 times more productive? What does that mean? Right? Don't tell me you could sack people, because that's probably not what I want to hear, but you get what I mean. Like that is a staggering statistic. And we look around and we ask ourselves, maybe there's something truly going on here that we can deliver to our customers to change the way they work for service desk teams. So, what do we think we can do differently? Well, I won't go on and on and on. I'll just do 3 things. So the first thing is experience, right? A lot of the IT service desk tools that we looked around, well, a lot of them were historically built for, supporting mainframe systems, back-end systems. They weren't really about experience at all, right? We think that has to change. Knowledge, right? Who thinks of, I don't know who's in the IT kind of service desk team here. I mean, do you guys think of yourselves as knowledge workers? Yeah. So knowledge is important, right? We really need to. Our belief really is that we really need to empower the whole organization with knowledge rather than just doing the kind of repeated day-to-day manual work. And the third thing that we think is really, really important is a metric, right? And that's service level agreements. I think most IT teams would have it. We think it's a key metric for service desks, but we think we could do much better than what's out there today to make that happen. So, let me talk you through these things in a little bit more detail. User experience. So today we've all got Facebook. We all go home to mental block. All the different websites that we go to, and we have an expectation. We say, hey, that website needs to look really great. It needs to work really well. So in our consumer everyday lives, we all go home to great user experiences everywhere online. Right? It's actually quite hard these days to find a poor user experience online. So the question is, why is there a poor user experience in your organization? Right? And if you look at the service desks, you find very, very quickly that user experience is lacking. Right? Actually, again, if you look at some of those analyst reports, I think Gartner quotes that poor user experience and an outdated UI is actually one of the biggest reasons why IT teams look for a replacement to a service desk. So we believe that experience is a big deal and really changes the way people work. Now compound that with the fact that a lot more of our employees today are very, very, very tech savvy. They're much more capable of finding information themselves. They're much more willing to just jump on a computer to do things. We think we can build a great customer portal that can enable them to do these things. And so this is a screenshot of our product. This is what we call our customer portal. What's interesting to note here, I think, is the fact that it is simple, it is lightweight, and it is really speaking to the language of your end users, right? So, there you go, customer-centric language. So, example here, if you need to get software, then don't call it procurement, don't call it PO, call it request new software, because that's what people get, that's what people understand. Take that further, right? This is our internal software request form, and it's very, very simple, because it should be simple. Right? Experience is all about simplicity, and it's all about the removal of clutter. Right? Why have all these crazy fields, all these costs and justifications? We as the IT team know all that. It's our problem, not theirs. And so with this form, it's very cut down. We give them hints on the side to take them through what it is that they're actually doing. We can insert links in there to take them through to the knowledge base articles that are relevant for them. Right? So when we put in something like that, what we found was that customers are much more willing to jump on and use this customer portal to help themselves. Knowledge management. So knowledge is a great asset in our organization. Right? So right now with service desk, a lot of times what we find is that we repeat ourselves again and again when we do tickets or cases, when in reality, we can arm that knowledge to our end users and they can help themselves. Right? That is one of the key beliefs we have with our product. So that's what we've done. There's like a little quick fly through here. You'll see that, take back the case of the clumsy Ryan, and when he's now coming back on his sticky keyboard, trying to find a replacement keyboard, you can see that he just types on the keyboard, and article suggestions pop up straight away. Right? And the integration is with Confluence. So Confluence is the source of all this knowledge, and it can now come straight to Ryan's context. Right? So it doesn't even go to a separate page, it just pops it out. But the beautiful thing about all this is it also retains the rich formatting you get in Confluence, the rich content that you get. So it's not a boring big text box or anything like that. Right? Now, knowledge actually to us is only half of the solution, right? You can present that knowledge to your employees, to your end customers, but I think a big part of the challenge is, well, it's useless if it's not updated. Right? It's useless if it's not captured, right? Which is why we also believe that the full solution to a knowledge-based approach to service desk is to embed that into the workflow of the IT teams and the tickets, right? Which is why you see here, what we're doing is at the completion or resolution of this I can't log in problem, we use some best practice templates that drop you straight into Confluence where you can quickly create a knowledge-based article. So the idea is it's integrated to your service desk workflow rather than being in a separate system, a separate place, having to deal with a separate time. Because if that is the case, you won't do it, your teams will not do it. On to service level agreements. So we call them advanced because we believe it is very advanced. It is very, very capable of measuring the most important metrics that you have in your organization. Now, one of the things that we notice with SLAs is that lots and lots of tools, lots and lots of vendors, lots and lots of different teams have SLAs, right? Now, SLAs are your contractual agreements, your contractual obligations to your business. So it's important, right? It's your promise to your customer, right? It is what you are promising to the rest of the business. You have to live up to that. If you can't live up to that, what are you living up to, right? So we believe that teams need to act accordingly to what they've agreed to. Now, the challenge is how do you ensure in this, in the chaotic world that is IT sometimes, that teams are actually influenced by that metric, right? So a lot of teams, they go, lots of tickets coming in, they're flying everywhere, or someone's calling on the phone, someone's maybe using a chat to them and saying, this is the most urgent. How do they know what is the most important thing to work on? And that is, I think, the basis for what we want to do with SLAs in service desk. Right? So here you see the SLA metric being displayed on the left-hand side here. What's important to note is that we really call out, right, the important things here. So there's one ticket here that is overdue, so better jump on that quickly. But what you can see is also that one ticket is getting there. Right? It's 23 minutes away from missing the SLA as well. So that way, what we allow the team to do is really prioritize their work and drive their decisions and the behaviors and what to do based on the metric that they're being measured by. Now, of course, we didn't just put it on the queue screen. What we've done is actually expanded that everywhere. Right? So wherever you're working on a ticket, you get to see it. The idea is to make it as prominent as possible, and the idea is to make it as visible as possible so that you're always driven by what that's telling you. And of course, we also support multiple SLAs. Right? So a lot of teams these days track multiple SLAs, first response, and then final resolution. Right? Allow you to do both. Now, great metrics, great SLAs, of course, is only part of the picture. Ultimately, what you'd love to do with those metrics is to be able to feed that back to the team, to think about how you can change it or improve it so that you're doing a better job next time. Right? And this is where the reporting comes in for service desk. Right? So this is, you're looking at here, I think it might be a live one. This is actually a real one from our sysadmin team in terms of how they've done, how they've performed for the tickets that they've breached SLAs versus the tickets that have succeeded in meeting SLAs. And you can see that I'd love to claim that at some point about here we actually introduced Service Desk, and that's why there's more greens here, more reds, but I'd probably be lying if I said that, but you get the picture, right? The idea is that now with these reports in Service Desk, it's exposing a lot more visibility into how you're actually training over time. Are you meeting your targets? Are you meeting your targets over time? Are you improving over time? Are you improving as an individual, as a team? Right? If you go to different locations, are you doing better at one location versus another? Right? Those are all questions that our reporting now allows you to answer. So, I've gone on about teachers, so what? Right? What's the big deal, right? Ultimately, I think what it all boils down to is self-service, right? So, who has any form of self-service in their IT teams? Self-service. What about like the rest of the business outside IT, right? So, any kind of finance, other functions? Very few. So that's good. That gels with the statistics that I'm about to rattle out, which is that I think roughly about 50% of the IT teams in the industry have some form of self-service based on some research, and only about 10% of other organizations other functions in an organization outside IT also have self-service, right? But at the same time, we really believe that people should drive towards self-service. Why? Because we believe people actually prefer it. So, I think we all have mobile phones here. When something goes wrong, who wants to call up the telco and speak to someone to get the things fixed? Fantastic, no one, I'm glad. Because I hate it too, right? No one wants to call up the telco, everyone wants to find the answers, everyone wants to get things done, right? That also corroborates with the research that we have. 72% of customers prefer the self-service, right? These days, everyone's empowered to go to Google, type it in, find their answer. Gone are the days of picking up the phone, calling up the IT team, calling up the providers to get service, right? And so this is what it's really all about ultimately, right? Our service desk is really about empowering those IT teams and all the other teams in the organization a way to do self-service. So what have we done in ISN? Actually, a lot. So this is our IT service desk. So you can see here that there's lots and lots of things going on here. But we've also applied it across to build engineering. We've applied it to interactive marketing, right? So these are the guys who help us build great content, build slideware, build banners, all sorts of things, right? We've applied it to payroll, right? Our payroll questions and our payroll requests are now going through self-service. And we're also applying it to legal, right? Our legal team, which is one that you probably wouldn't have expected, right? So with that, what I'd like to do now is actually jump into one example. I'm going to hand it over to Christoph to jump into one example.
So I want to share with you a practical example of implementing self-service for our legal team. So this is what it looks like. Well, what's interesting is we're all getting slammed and we're being asked to do more with what we have. And for this legal team, within 1 year, they were having the contract reviews doubling up. And if you think about it, contract reviews is just one of the many things that your legal team would be doing. And it's a team of 4 attorneys based in San Francisco. And the reason why they're getting so many requests doubling up is because their customers, the Atlassian employees, there's more and more of them. We're growing really strongly. We're hiring 2 new people every day at the moment. So it's putting a lot of pressure on the shared services across Atlassian. And so for the legal team, it's really, how can we keep up with that? And you might be facing the same situation in your organization, in your business, where you're growing really fast, you're getting more and more customers, but you want to continue delivering a great service to them. And for them, it doesn't matter that you're growing so fast. They're still expecting you to deliver the great service for each and every interaction. But for our legal team, they might not be able to grow at 300% rate. So they just can continue to provide the same level of service because Atlassian is growing at 300% rate, hiring people. It's just not going to work like that. So they have to do more with what they have. So automation can really help you. Providing self-service can really help you. And so that's why they were like, okay, how can we keep up? Self-service can be the answer. And so they introduced the legal express lane. That's how they call their self-service. That's how they call their service desks. So you've seen this, this figure showed by Edwin before. That's from Forrester Research, a big analyst firm. And so how did they go about creating a self-service? How did they go about creating a do-it-yourself service desk? It's 3 simple steps. The first one is you need to track the process. If you're using email to answer your question, it's not very scalable and you're not getting any insights in what you do. So you need to be able to track it, have a workflow system in place. Most of you are using JIRA, so that's a good way to start. Then the second thing is you got the data, look into it, find out a little bit more about it, find where are the low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to get it in a little bit more detail in a second. So I just want to give you a high level first. And finally, once you find this low-hanging fruit, you can enable self-service. So track the process. 3 years ago, we did not have a legal team. Then we hired one person, and this person was running around, having ad hoc meetings, face-to-face meetings, managing the workload by email, and that's fine. That's easy. Everybody's got email, everybody's got spreadsheets, and that's an easy way to get started. Most of your business teams might be working like that. But it's not very scalable. And as Atlassian was growing, as the team was growing, we put a system in place, we put JIRA in place. So we like to dog food, so that's why they use JIRA. But it's also a great workflow system, so for them it's enabling them to bring more consistency in the way they track the process, in the way they go about doing business. It's better to track what's going on, to gather data. It gives them reports. So they track the process. And with that, they were able to look into the data. Now, as a service desk manager, you should be spending most of your time managing operations and doing trends analysis, gap analysis, looking into data to understand what's going on and improve service, improve the way your team is performing. And so they did exactly that. Because they were tracking the data in JIRA, they could then look into it. If they were just using emails, you just can't look into it. So they looked at the data, and they looked at the type of request that they were getting. They looked at the dollar threshold for each type of the request. They looked at how long it was taking, what was the risk associated with each request. And then they did benchmarking as well to find out what other legal teams, other companies are doing. Now for us in IT that might seem quite a logical process to do, but bear in mind again it's a business team. And so they looked at all of that, then they had a big brainstorm, and they looked at all the requests that they were getting. And they defined what in service management we would call our service catalog, the list of requests that they're providing to the rest of the business. And what they realized is we're a team of 4 attorneys. So we have to focus on the stuff that's going to be high risk, high impact, high value to the business. This is where we want to work. This is where we want to concentrate. This is where we want to spend our time. And the stuff that's low value, low impact, low risk, we don't want to touch it. That's a prime candidate to be provided as part of self-service. So I want you to take a few seconds to think about where you spend most of your time. First, do you know? And then if you know, is that really high risk, high value, high impact? I mean, many companies spend up to 30% of their service desk time on resetting password. Is that something that's critical for your company? Could you be provided that as part of self-service? So again, this is a business team doing that, but this is something that will be valid for many, many, many teams in IT. And so they were like, okay, contract reviews, we don't want to spend time on it, or as little time as we can. And again, it's one of the many things that they do. And so they enable self-service. So they had JIRA in place, they got all these insights, they did this review, and they were like, let's put JIRA Service Desk on top and provide self-service. So I want to give you a practical example, because I'm giving you the theory of what they did, but now let's actually walk through how the legal express lane works. So let's look at this guy from Atlassian. He's in marketing, he's looking for a kick-ass idea for JIRA Service Desk. So kick-ass idea, okay, well, maybe Chuck Norris, okay? So, Before, it would have been a cumbersome process. Back and forth with the customer, which template are we using for the contract? Am I putting it together? Am I getting it online? Am I using the vendor's contract? Because it's going to be easier for me, but is that in the best interest of my company? I don't know. Confusing. Lots of friction, and probably lots of back and forth between me, my legal team, and the external party. So not a very smooth process. Now this is the URL that I have to type in my browser. Now who thinks that's a very easy URL to remember when you need legal services? Cool, a few hands in the air. Awesome. So IT, like the job of IT is not just to put great systems in place and improving processes. It's also about how well do you market all these processes and these systems. How easy do you make it for people to find them and use them? And so using a URL shortener like this is really helping you to market your self-service or your systems. So I type go/legal, and this is the web-based customer portal that I see, that you've seen before as well, that Edwin has shown. And you can see there's some explanation at the top, there's some hyperlinks that can go to explain the process in more depth in Confluence or in your intranet, in your wiki. And then there's a very clear list of services that the legal team is using. And it's non-technical speak. It's non-IT jargon. It's not IT jargon. It's not legal jargon. It's something that you and I can understand. And so if I want to work with Chuck Norris, I probably don't want to do a development agreement. Probably not interested in setting up an NDA to exchange some IP information. I probably want to do a master services agreement to perform non-development services. So I click on there, and this is the form that I would get. And again, we keep it simple. There's in-context help here. What are we buying and why? So what we're buying is a kick-ass performance from Chuck. Keep it simple in the language, and that's fully customizable. You can put whatever you want there. So as a customer, that's it. I'm done. As an end user, I've lodged my request. I'm happy. I can go back to work. Now, what does it mean? What's happening in the background? So I want you to meet Matt, who's one of our attorneys in San Francisco. And in this case, if you make an analogy, he's our service desk agent. So we kept it simple. What they use and what they continue to use is JIRA. So you can see here the dashboard for the legal team. And you can see there's several widgets based on the workflow stage. And this is the open items. And you can see at the top the Chuck Norris ticket. So I click, and this is the view that I get. So I'm just going to grab some water. So you can see the same information that we saw before, except we're not presenting all of that to the end user. We just presented a few fields that they needed to see, and the rest we hide that from them. But for Matt, who's in the background, he's getting all the information he needs. He's getting the attachments with the contract. And from an auditing or legal perspective, it's great to have everything out in the same location. And not just for your legal team, for any business teams. But you could keep it simple, Now you have SLAs as well. So that doesn't mean that your business team needs to have or implement or use SLAs. It's just there. So keep it simple. Let them to use the interface. And they can track, again, they can get the data. They can see how they perform at the end of the quarter. They can do a review. Oh, we're performing much better than we thought. Or much worse. But it gives them insights. And you're familiar with that. I mean, the whole commenting trail where you can collaborate with people, you can make comments like this. So yeah. So that's the net result for the legal team. So implementing self-service, 43% of the contract reviews, they did not need to touch them. So much win, but what does it mean? Okay, 43%. To put that in context, over the course of a quarter, for a team of 4 people, that's saving 125 hours. For a team of 4 people over 1 quarter, you've just saved 1 month worth of work. 1 month worth of attorney's time so that this person can work on higher priorities. And again, contract reviews, just one of the many things that the legal team is doing. It was actually 43%, then they looked at the data again, they looked at the dollar threshold per request, and then they realized that if they increase slightly the amount of the requests that they don't need to review as part of this self-service, it's actually, they can shave another 25 hours. And then it's 150 hours, it's exactly 50% of the requests that they don't need to touch. So as you can see, from 100 at the beginning of the year to 200, doubling up, then they put self-service and you cut that down by half. Now, who'd like to cut down work by half? Awesome. So just to show you an example of, a team, a legal team, we would not think about like the difference it could make for them, but it's just one team and 50% of part of their work has been cut. So it's an evolution. They didn't start from day one and say, hey, you know what, we're going to put self-service, we're going to cut 50% of our work, woohoo, it's going to be awesome. They started with email because it's cheap, it's easy. But email is terrible in terms of doing support, lots of back and forth, it's not very efficient. So they graduated from email. They put JIRA in place. That gave them a more consistent approach. That gave them a way to track, report, get insights into the data. Then they implemented self-service, provided a better user experience for the team at Atlassian, their customers. And then they looked into the data again and kept on refining the services they're providing. They're using that internally, but they want to put another service desk to manage external requests, so IP, brand, trademark. They also want to integrate that with Confluence so that they can leverage all the data within our wiki. And as you've seen, like when we were typing keyboard and it was suggesting knowledge-based articles, they want to do the same thing here. So again, it's an evolution, it's a journey. But it's not the only team. Who's heard about the Atlassian Foundation? Okay, a few people. So we give part of our revenue, our equity, and money that we get from licensing to charities. And Atlassian Foundation is managing that. And the goal of the foundation is to empower the youth of the world to get access to higher education, and especially young females in Southeast Asia. And over the course of the last few years, we've given over $4 million to charity. So they put a service desk in place, and because it was not just relying on Melissa to manage it as a person, manually manage the process with finance to match donations from Atlassian employees, and it was provided as part of self-service. People could make donations themselves. And when the Typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines, our team in Manila could raise a campaign within the company on our Confluence, say, hey guys, there's this typhoon, can we please raise some money to help the victims of the typhoon? And so within 1 week, we raised $3,000. Because again, people could self-serve and make it easier to make donations. So Melissa was not the person being the bottleneck. So that's another example of how you can make a difference for teams in your business. Juliet is part of our talent team, and we have something called the Kudos program. Anyone's heard about the Kudos program? Okay, so it's to reward people to say, hey, you've done a good job, and you can give them an iTunes voucher or something like that. Same thing, we're using a service desk for that. People can go online, click on the Kudos, select the person, and then when you've done that, that's it, you're done. Juliet will get the request up, go to the storage room, get the iTunes voucher, and then put that in an envelope, close the ticket and say, Christophe, your Kudos is available. Then I can grab it, and I can give that to Dan and say, Dan, thanks for organizing a great event with the experts. So you still have this human interaction to say thank you and why, but we automate the whole process to make it very smooth in terms of rewards program. So that's another thing you could automate in your business. So yeah, that's it. I just wanted to share with you a few examples of self-service across the business, the difference it made for the business teams, but also for the organization. I'll pass it back on to Edwin.
Thank you, Christophe. Great story. I think it's absolutely, if I may say this, I think it's actually made a huge impact to our business when we rolled out service desk to all these functions, right? But you may say, you know what, you're Atlassian, of course you're going to use it, right? You dog food your own stuff, you try your own stuff, and of course you're going to use it to the most, right? But what do our customers say? And I think this is where it's actually been the most exciting for us, actually. So since launch, we've actually reached over 1,700 teams. So lots and lots of our customers have already picked up Service Desk and have been deploying it in one business area or another, right? So let's have a look at what some of them have done. So Twitter have actually rolled out a giant installation of Service Desk with over 80 service desks to effectively change the whole global services team for them. So they're actually, I think there is a talk by Alex at one of our Atlassian user group events. So if you look for Twitter JIRA Service Desk, you would probably find a recording of that and hear about how Atlassian Service Desk, JIRA Service Desk actually completely changed the way Twitter IT services worked. Another one, BAE Systems, BAE of course, a big defense company. And what they found was that our intuitive interface really changed the way people think about IT and really, allowed them to manage their warranty kind of warranty requests, right, for strategic projects in BAE. Good is another great example. Good technology. They do mobile technology and security for good.com. And what they found was that the SLA metrics actually really made a big difference for them. Right? Using our SLA metrics, they really got a lot more visibility into their business. Right? Their IT managers and their managers started to get a lot more visibility into what the group actually did. And final example, Vistaprint. They're a relatively recent deployment. They went from 2 to 22 locations, so a whopping 22 location global deployment across 20 services of Service Desk in a couple of weeks. So it's all happening for a lot of these customers. So what is next for JIRA Service Desk? Now, of course, this is a big opportunity for us. It's a big opportunity for Atlassian. I talked about some of the opportunity at the beginning. I think at the beginning, Daniel mentioned that there were 3 product groups. Actually, there are 4, right? And we are the 4th product group. We're the newest addition to the kind of wider Atlassian family. So, of course, this is something that we are very, very excited about. And so we're going to do a lot more things to Service Desk in the future. So stay tuned for that. Of course, as part of that opportunity, we are also growing very, very quickly. Our team has now grown to a development office in Saigon as well, hiring lots of designers, engineers, QA, everybody. So anyone here looking for a job? So if you do, come talk to me. But yes, anyways, I'll leave it at that. Of course, also in just under 2 weeks, we also have our annual conference at San Jose in the United States. And we're going to feature heavily there. We're actually super excited. Christophe and I are going to spend a lot of time there. And we're actually going to run a complete track in Summit to talk about IT teams and how Service Desk could really help IT teams make a difference. Now, of course, if you can make it, so if you've got a bit more budget left in there, maybe you could make that trip out there. I think the tickets, the registration is definitely still open. We would love to see you there at Summit. But of course, if you can't make it, that is also okay. We will be recording all the content. So please stay tuned for that. We will be sharing with you after the event as well. So we'll leave it at that. We'll take a couple of questions now. If anyone's got any questions about Service Desk, about any of the stuff that Christophe or myself have gone through today, we've got time for a couple of them. So, yes?
The product looks like the product looks like it's really aimed at human-initiated service requests. Does it cater for things like system outages or remote automatic monitoring of systems and raising tickets in those cases?
Great question. So Service Desk has actually been designed from the ground up, mostly for human interaction. Having said that, that is one interesting area that we are looking at. And the second thing I think that is also really relevant is that, of course, it's all backed by JIRA, right? And JIRA has a big plethora of things that allow you to integrate, and we actually have seen many instances of customers doing that sort of system outages already, going straight into JIRA, but then appearing back on the service desk. So there is already some opportunity.
Welcome. We're just going to have a short little video because it is all about the experience, and that's exactly what it's about. So while we're doing a bit of a swap over there, welcome. Thanks for coming down. I really appreciate taking the time to have a chat with us about service desk, Atlassian and Design Industries. Yeah, I intend to give a slightly different view on things, so it's just a slightly different perspective. But can I just get a bit of a sense from the people in the room in terms of your background? Is it technical? Is it non-technical? Because what we find sometimes, some of the background with Atlassian, it does come from a technical sort of place, but it's certainly moving into something much broader. So can I have a quick show of hands? Tech? Okay, that's most. And non-tech? Okay, great. All right, so that's about a 70-30 split. And that's fine. So we'll be going through it. I'm going to be trying to communicate to all of you. But I want you to feel this one. Feel it. Listen to his words, because this is how I feel when I'm driving Atlassian. It is simply that simple. Okay, we need a little bit of sound, because it does sound rather good. But we're talking about high-performance machinery and high-performance systems for your business. It's there we go. Yeah, go from the start, because you can just no sound. Oh well. What you're seeing here is a McLaren P1. So McLaren's a Formula One racing team. They're a sports car manufacturer now. And what they've basically done is built an amazing car. They've used all their skills, all their experience at the racetrack, their manufacturing technology, their rapid prototyping skills to be able to produce something that's just completely out of this world.
916 horsepower! It's just a new thing. Back it in, watch. Let's back it in. The chassis got balance, drift, go, and 900 horsepower. This thing is a freak. It's genius. I've not driven a car like it. Quiet. I'll do some voiceover. I'm just consumed by how good this thing is. And breathe. And breathe. And breathe.
So for some of us who've got a bit of a passion for high performance tools, machines, teams, making things go faster, be more efficient and operate spectacularly and go out and win on the racetrack of business. That's why I feel about things. I think all businesses are competing. They're racing whether they see it or not, and they're rapidly prototyping or not so rapidly prototyping and developing their race car as they compete against the opposition. So that's where we come into, we've been with Atlassian and Design Industries. So Design Industries, we produce the factories of the future. We're into digital operation systems, so that's all of the software in the enterprise. So fancy title for that's enterprise architecture. It just says we need to look after all of the information. So obviously we've got email, but we've also got customer data. We've got project data, we've got inventory data, and there's lots and lots of data in the organisation. So what we want to do is make sure that we've got a performance machine that's going to be able to support the people and the processes in order to achieve business objectives. So we practice lean and agile. I'm going to talk a bit about that in a moment. And it's about strategy and software. So it's all the software and making sure it's implemented strategically. Can we take advantage of opportunities in data that perhaps we have within our organisation? Are we utilising our team members efficiently? There's lots to go around with the strategy. And for business on the web, so we've seen every industry sector, retail, banking, mining, airlines, not-for-profit, sports team, media. We've been in the digital space for 14 years, and it's about operational software for business. So that's design industries. So I want to talk a little bit about lean and agile. Is everyone familiar with lean? Anyone familiar with lean? Put up your hands if you're familiar with lean. Yeah, so lean manufacturing came out of, obviously manufacturing. Toyota was known for really pushing it, but it really is about just saying we want to do the minimum to get something. So we're not going to waste effort. We're going to be really mindful about where we're putting our effort. We're not going to put fat on anything. We just do the minimum to get the job done, and then we'll review it and we improve over time as we need to, because it's about speed as well, and conserving your resources. And agile project management methodology. Agile is an interesting one. Who's familiar with agile? Quite a few, excellent. That's probably because of the more technical nature of the people in the room. Who doesn't like agile, thinks there's issues with it? Put your hand up now, come on. No. All right, because it's quite a contention. It's just a different way of managing project management information. And to me, it's just project management is pretty simple. You're talking quality, so that's your requirements, time and money. It's a project management triangle. It's about how we're managing that information and the methodologies you're using as an organisation to be able to manage that type of information. So perhaps we'll move on from lean and agile to our next one, which is around, around maturity of your project management methodology. So I ask senior business sort of stakeholders all the time, how do you rate your task, project management and team collaboration capability? 1 to 10. Is it great or is it poor? Who wants to give me, who would rate themselves on the lower end, mid-end, higher end? So lower end, who doesn't like what they're doing with the team? Okay, that's not too bad. What about who's comfortable but thinks there's a lot of room for improvement with their task, team and project management? Yeah, and who says they've got it all under control? Or they're flying. They've got their team singing, they know where all their projects are at, they're all on time, they're all on budget, there's never any slippage. No. Never happens. All right, that's all right. So, look, this is just showing how agile turns up in organisations. So agile as a project management methodology is different. It came out of the software development space. Because software projects typically are very, very challenging. They're always changing, the requirements changing because users change their mind or actually realise what it is that they truly want in the first place. That's more accurate. So it's basically very, very dynamic, changing environments is the project management space that we've come from and Atlassian has come from. So what it means is you need to have a tool that is very, very flexible, very powerful, and so we can tailor it to our changing, flexible, changing environment. So okay, so that's what it is. So we need the power. We want to be able to manage what we need to manage. We've got projects, we've got business as usual, we've got tasks coming in, we've got changing priorities from our different clients or from the executive, and it's how we communicate all that information across our teams, regardless of where they are, whether they're co-located in one office or in multiple sites across the town or across the globe. So over time, what happens is JIRA gets installed by the IT department because they like using it for managing their IT stuff, because it's a fantastic tool set. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the tool set and how that's really supported, particularly on the developer side. But we get small teams doing some agile delivery, so just getting together as a group and just working together as a team, just doing short, sharp releases of work. And then over time, those teams spread. So there'll be 1 team, 2 teams, there might be 3 teams. This might be running off multiple instances of JIRA. And then what happens is your non-technical teams are calling the IT department and saying, I need some project management capability for my marketing program or for my HR program, or we're rolling out a new store somewhere where we need to manage the data effectively. So they're asking IT for project management capability. And this is the beauty and the sheer genius of Atlassian, is it's already in the enterprise. Your IT team are already using it. Your business as usual team might be already supporting it. And it's there, ready to leverage. So it's about what can we do with this platform, how can we expand it, how can we unpack it, and how can we put it across the enterprise. And this is where we're going to go. We're going to go to the portfolio delivery, agile, across the organisation. So it doesn't matter how big or how small. My money's on the Commonwealth Bank being the first corporation in Australia being truly agile. They're well on the way. But it's, to me, again, it's a race, because agile is about speed, it's about velocity, it's about your ability to react and change. And let's face it, they're really, really important aspects for a business. Okay, just want to talk very briefly regarding the business case for IT. Okay, so what's the business case for being more efficient? What's the business case for having more velocity as an organisation? Okay, these are no-brainers. You know, what's the business case for us being able to manage all of the information effectively in our organisation, from executive down to run sheet view, for someone who's actually punching out the task day in, day out. So what happens? You want growth, you need innovation. Agile is going to deliver you innovation, continual improvement. You want to bake it into your cake. So that's part of your business as usual, is to continually innovate. And again, this is one of the promises that Agile and things like that are going to bring. And basically positive returns: time, which equals save money. Human capital appreciation. So obviously, you know, that's the look on that guy's face when he's driving the car. You know, that's the look you want on your guy's face, on your team's face, when they're using the tools, when they're going out and doing the job. Because my experience is that you usually got very, very high quality people. Their intentions are good. They want to do well for the team. They want to work as a team, and they're generally just a little bit frustrated, or maybe more than a little bit frustrated, by the tools and how they hang together and how they work as a team. So it really is about making sure that we're empowering our teams, empowering our, you know, the drivers in our team, making sure that they've got the adequate tools. We want to make sure as an organisation we're giving them the fastest car, because they're going to go race. If they're in the slowest car, they're going to struggle, no matter how good they are. So this is what we're going to take responsibility for. And obviously competitive advantage. You know, if your competitor changes their price tomorrow, how quickly can you update all your information across the board if you want to react? How quickly could you reconstruct a product? How quickly could you reconstruct a service delivery in terms of workflow and deliverables if you had to react? You know, maybe these 3 people from one of your teams are suddenly all sick with the flu. What happens now? Can you manage all this, these changes, this flexibility? All right, so we'll go on to the next bit. And let's face it, in an organisation, that's a bit bright, can't quite see it. Apologise for that. But there's a lot of information in the organisation. So this is a example system diagram for us. Let's say a medium-sized e-commerce business might have some stores, might have some warehouses. There's a lot of software platforms. These are just kind of the main ones. So out here we've got your social, eBay, you might have some product, obviously you know all the social platforms. You don't control the data out there, you can push it, but you don't control the server and the platform. If you're running an e-commerce business, you might have multi-sites, you might have multiple front-end websites because you're dealing in retail, wholesale, you might have microsites for specific products, you might have multilingual sites for foreign markets, you might have sites for distributors operating for you on your behalf in foreign markets, and you're providing the services layer in terms of the e-commerce infrastructure. Inventory management, customer management, you know, the Atlassian stack, so intranet, extranet, team collaboration, again, task, project, and team collaboration. That's what we really want. And accounting, then you've got your web hosting, there's multiple pieces of software sitting on there. By the time you start adding it all up, there's a lot of data. There's a lot of products, a lot of product data, all these SKUs, inventories, details, there's staff. Who are my staff? How much am I paying these people? What's all the details against them? What's our sales and marketing? What's the content? Where's our website? What are our Google AdWords doing? Are they performing correctly? How's that analytics result turning up on our marketing results? What's happening with our projects? Are we on time? Are we on budget? Do we need more heads? Have we got too many? Have we got the right skills to deliver against? There's so much information floating around in the organisation, and there'll be databases all over the place, and there'll be some connections and some lack of connections. There'll be manual processes going on. There'll be teams sitting in the back of your property over there, and they'll be still using Excel, and they'll be doing something really inefficient, and they'll be doing it their way because that's the perhaps the solution they've crafted for themselves because they just were frustrated with kind of where they were at with the tools. So what we're saying is there's a stack of information in the enterprise, and what we want to do is make sure that the software and the system layer is in place, because there's three sides to the basic business models. There's people, systems, process. So this is my favourite question for the day, or for the moment. So the people, systems, process triangle, I like things really simple in terms of models. What's the most important? People, systems, or process? So I'm going to ask who thinks people are the most important. There we go, it's about half. Who says systems? Not many, that's all right, we'll teach you. I shouldn't say things like that. Process. Anyone going to say, yeah, there's not, okay, so all right. So look, this is consistent. This is really consistent. So a lot of people say that, it's the people, obviously. If you don't have people, you can't do anything. But if you don't have a process, i.e. which tells that person what to do, then that person will turn up, they're going to do nothing anyway. And if you give them the tool without the process, and they'll turn up and they'll break the tool and hurt themselves. So I think it really is a big piece of the puzzle that all has to come together. We need highly qualified people. They need to be well trained. They need to be highly motivated and willing to grow. We need to have very, very powerful systems, the most powerful systems you can get your hands on. There's no excuse. It's the best we can get because they're the tools for the troops. And then it's process. So that's the glue. Because if you don't have the glue, they're not going to hang together so well. Because you need to instruct the carpenter how to use the nail gun, otherwise you'll find him with his arm, nailed to the wall kind of thing. All right, so plenty of information in the enterprise. You want to be able to manage it. There's quite a bit to it, but we're really going to focus for the moment on that software layer and making sure that's in place. Okay, so this is my version of the Atlassian software stack. I've noticed that there's, it's interesting how we like to interpret this information. From my point of view, I consider myself, a digital operations specialist. I'm looking at all the software in the enterprise. I'm not technical myself, so I don't write code. I'm not going to describe a push-pull request through Bamboo or all the rest of it. What I'm going to tell you is you've got, obviously, Atlassian. You've got JIRA at the core, and I'm going to go into Atlassian concepts in a second, because I think that's really important to get our heads around. So JIRA for task management, Confluence for collaboration, those things glue together, and that's where it just becomes amazing, extremely powerful, where we can have our tasks and our projects floating through time and space, and in Confluence we can collaborate on that information, discuss what it is that we're seeing. So very, very powerful. So I call these the team tools. So obviously there's Service Desk, JIRA Agile, so that's just again viewing information so that you can see what you need to, relevant information from your teams. So the executive wants to look at different information to the project lead, to the team lead, to the run sheet level. So again, it's just how we want to view that. HipChat for communication. And down here we've got all our developer tools. So there's quite a few. But again, this is where some of Atlassian's heritage is. It came out of this space. And that's what really, really sets it apart, is the developer tool set that's integrated into their task and project management tools. And the fact that as a result, they're in place because it's being used by IT departments everywhere already. It's also a marketplace in the top right-hand corner. So what that says, well, there's over 3,000 extensions to the Atlassian product suite available from the Atlassian marketplace, because many, many organisations, and what you're going to see in the next slide, you'll start to understand the power of JIRA and why it fits in there at the core, and then the ability to extend that software to be able to go into more niche functions with the marketplace. So again, you just buy it, install it, and suddenly you've just increased the power or tailored the suit in line with your needs, which I think is really important when you're designing a business system. All right, so we're going to go into my favourite one here, which is the Atlassian concepts. This one's in your book. So this probably does require a bit of a walkthrough. So it goes from top left down to right. So what it says is, we're talking about JIRA. So JIRA, JIRA, JIRA. So that's the key product in the Atlassian toolchain. And what it is, it's around task management. We're going to see what a task looks like. So we know, we've just spoken about the raw data in the organisation. So we know there's different task types. We know that there's descriptions, we know that there's due dates, we know that there's assignees, there might be attachments. There's heaps of data that could potentially be out there. So what we want to do is we want to look at the data that we want to capture, and we'll bucket it up into what Atlassian called issues. I call them objects because it's just a different way of looking at it. But what it is a package of that data. So for example, you might have a task, which is obviously, as we said, summary, description, assignee, due date, that type of thing. Or you might have an object which is more tangible. For example, has a serial number like a laptop. So suddenly you can have your laptops listed. So now we're starting to talk about assets. Design industries use objects to identify software packages that are out in the environment. Because you can imagine a company like us, we'll create software, so we have got many software web hosting environments we're managing on behalf of our clients. And each of those hosting environments has software installed on top of it. And we just want to identify all that. We need to know the expiry dates. We need to know the license numbers. We need to know the support. We need to know what version of software. So if we get a security update required, we can find out which clients are running that version of the software and identify who we need to deal with. So it's about managing that information. So something like a task, and then into something tangible like a piece of software or a laptop, or something more intangible like a risk. So you might want to manage risk in your organisation. Could be a good idea. So we create an object called risk. What fields do we want to manage against that, and how do we want to report on that information over time? So it gives you great opportunity and variety to just start describing all the different things that are happening in your enterprise. So we saw before from the Atlassian slides, they had legal requests. Well, they're an object. So there's information that we need to capture regarding that particular piece of that particular issue type. So we need to know what type of request it is and which legal team it's dependent on, all of the rest of it. That's information that needs to be captured. So we've got our data, we bunch it up into our objects, and then we've got our rules that we attach to it. So that is a workflow diagram. So again, we'd like to track this object through time. So it starts here, and then what's next, and what happens next, and does it go to team B and team C, it closes out, we test it, and it's done. Now, what we want to do is just understand what workflows we want, and then we attach it to our objects. So something like a risk might be something more basic in terms of workflow. It might be risk identified, then it might go into risk mitigating, and then risk closing, and then close. So it's a simple 4-stage process, or you might have something far more complex that's going to go through 20 or 30 different workflow states in order to resolve itself. So we specify the workflow, we specify the SLAs. So if this particular issue type hasn't moved between stage 2 and stage 3 within 4 hours, then let's trigger an event. So let's trigger an event, let's take the priority from normal and make it high. Let's take it, let's send a notification to a senior manager somewhere. Let's make it appear somewhere. What do we want to do? So we've got these 3 things. We've got the workflow, the SLAs and the triggers. And we've got this object floating through time and space. We've got control over the information that's going on in our organisation now. We've got it. And then what we do is we filter it. So show me a subset of all this information. So show me my issues that are overdue or are running late, or show me all the issues that Team B are working on at the moment which are critical, because Jimmy's just called in, he's a member of Team B and he's not going to be in today, so now I've got a workload issue. So what's going on? Do we have that information? Can we see what's going on? Do we have the ability to view it and reprioritise information on the fly when things happen, because things happen all the time. So again, can we control this? So if we can capture that information, we filter it. Show me all my overdue issues. And then we visualise it. How would you like that information visualised? How would you like your overdue issues visualised? Would you like them in a list? Would you like them in a pie chart? Would you like them listed by the assignees? Would you like them listed by the client, by the reporter? Both. Have it side by side. Do you want to interpret that information? What's going to be contextual and useful to that operator at that time? And that's really that feeling that you get when you're a project manager and things are going on and you've got challenges to deal with and you've got the tools, you've got the visibility, you can see where your guys are at, you can see what their priorities are, you know what the executive has indicated their priorities are to you, and you've now got the information that you need to be able to solve the problems that you working with right now, because the problems aren't going to go away. People still get sick, things change, it just is what it is. Things go wrong for just the wildest reasons, and you can do the best risk management and mitigation, things still happen. You know, I'm not, sad story. So sad story. I had someone ask me about how we manage due dates, and I said, nah, you know, due dates are very difficult because we can't tell what's going to happen. We can't tell. You're not going to know the start date. We're not going to know how many changes. We're not going to know the reprioritisations that we're going to go through. So it's difficult. And that was the conversation. He ended up in hospital, and his manager called me and tried to stop the project the next day. And he was asking me about when we could have the work. It just goes to show the change can happen at any time, and it can happen from any angle. And what we want is the information delivered to us so we can manage it. Because that's what we're doing. We're just going to manage. It's not going to stop the flow of information coming to you. All right, so at this last sort of level, we just separate the views. So obviously the CEO doesn't need to see the same information as the developer who's fixing the bug. So again, it's just being able to produce contextual views so you can assist the relevant stakeholders to be able to process the information that they need. So I see a lot of circumstances where we just create a view for a senior stakeholder, which is just a rapid board. Is everyone familiar with a rapid board, a Kanban board? Who's not familiar with a rapid and Kanban board? Okay, all right, I'll show you one later. Okay, but again, that's just step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and my issue is in step 1, or it's in step 2, or it's in step 3, and I can just visualise that information. But there's nothing like a senior manager being able to, being given an iPad with a rapid board, and he can just flick his approvals across. Flick, 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 all the approvals are done, and that's it, you can walk out and get on with the job, because you know that's an interesting thing. So self-service is the key. Senior stakeholders are the worst offenders. All right, so that's a JIRA concept. So I think that's really important to get our heads around, because at the core, you know, it's not just managing software, it's not just managing tasks, it's not just managing I've lost my keyboard, or you know, there's a lot of different things we can use this system for that we can manage a lot. So it's just a matter of step, 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 what do we want to do next? All right, how does everyone feel about what we've just heard? Anyone want to comment at this point in time? It's just too much, too little? Stunned silence, that's okay. All right, I shall go on then. All right, so that's really what I want to show there. We're going to jump in and have a look at the real deal now. If you want to go to the browser. Okay, so I think I've been gazumped by Atlassian. They showed 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different ways to run a service desk. So I'm going to show you 3. So we use Service Desk. We're also obviously using JIRA and Confluence. Oh, we're just having usual computer problems. No. Okay, so in terms of Service Desk, so it comes down to how do you want to engage with your clients. So I come from a position where my realisation on this is transparency or lack thereof, or the failure of communication will fail the project. That's just what happens. It's the clarity of the information between all the stakeholders. In most of our projects, there's many stakeholders, and they're very, very, very varied in who they are. So I've got a team of specialists, from developers to software engineers, and then business analysts. And then on my client side, I'll have project managers, you'll have developers, you'll have tech leads, you'll have marketing people, and you'll sometimes have the CEO or the CIO. And there's a lot of different sort of people who we need to communicate information with. So one of the things that's happened with software these days is crossed the line from just being that, oh yeah, we've got a website, we put a plugin up there, and yeah, okay, we've got an e-commerce thing going. It turned mission critical. It happened overnight. And if you think about it, web's been around about 20 years. We've seen amazing things. And to me, it's like, you know, it's the radio. It's like the valve radio going to the radio, black and white TV. So we're probably a black and white TV stage in relation to the internet. So obviously there's a long way to go, and it's going to happen much, much quicker. But this is just the reality of where we're at in this day and age. So how do we service all these different people? So we've got a client who've got, let's say we've got 10 people involved in a project. We've got some who've got very, very high demands for information. We've got some who've got very, very low demands for information. Well, they've got a high demand, but they only want one little piece, and anything else is distracting and becomes confusing for that particular individual. So what we want is to offer the option and variance in ways to engage with us. So some of our clients get a service desk, so perhaps we'll go to the next one. So for example, Renegade, big client, a lot of work, continual ERP support, and dealing with many people, from the IT to the general manager to the HR to the, there's many people, in the financial people, exactly, that's what I was thinking. So, and it's how they interface with this information. We're getting, I'm not sure, there'll be, I don't know, 100 requests, something like that per month for this particular client. And they're coming from, from the financial officer through to the IT team. So we need to have a much more detailed conversation with the IT team and their project managers about what's going on, because there's many tasks that are going on in the enterprise. And then when we have specific examples, for example, the CIO wants something, they come to a much simpler interface. So JIRA is under the skin. Service Desk is a simplified interface that sits on top. So it's designed to make it easier. It's designed to support end user and shield some of the power of Atlassian away from them, just so they can feel comfortable and like they're in charge. So let's go to the next one. This is an interesting one. So this is ours. We actually did it today. We don't use Service Desk internally for ourselves, of course, because we're always in the Atlassian environment. So it just means navigating to JIRA, hit the button C, bang, we've got what we need. So from a technical point of view, it works. But we can show, for example, new job applicants. So we're taking people. We've got an object for people. We manage it through a workflow. So we interview them, we assess them, we peer review them amongst our team, and then we'll make a hiring decision. Again, it's just an object created, floating through time and space, resume attached. I know their salaries are rated 1 to 10 on about 10 different things. Simple, we've got a process. New prospects. So we obviously, well not obviously, we've converted Atlassian into a CRM. So I liked Salesforce, used it for a long time. With a bit of rapid development in Atlassian, so I've been able to get the 1% of Salesforce that I like. Working in Atlassian took me about 2 weeks. And that's just on and off. In total duration would have been about, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours to get what I like out of Salesforce up and running in JIRA. So it just gives you a sense of what's possible there. Alright, so let's go have a look at, this is a sense of what's possible. Alright, so these next 2 charts, you need to just, the next 2 pages just need to be calm. And for those who are epileptic, I'm sorry. Look, this is a very rich view. So this is in Confluence, so it's a wiki page. And all we've done is we've just inserted, those macros that we were talking about before. Show me this filter, and then visualize it in a pie graph. So that's my 5 workflow stages. My entire production line sits there. It is streamed by client, it is streamed by assignee. They're the hours, that's where it's at, no problem, we know. So again, that might be too much for most people, but if you just want that one, that's okay. You can start off slower, you can start off in less rich environments, and that's typically what we do when we go around implementing, is we start with a minimum viable product. So minimum viable product is comes out of the sort of the startup land, but it's minimum viable and it's a product. So it means it's usable. So what we do generally is we'll do a bit of workshopping, find out exactly what objects you need, work out some basic workflows. Typically we simplify your existing workflows that you've got or don't have when you bring it into the system. So we just simplify, get you up and running as quickly as we can. And then we do a little bit of training with users, show them how to use the various bits and pieces, and then they'll start to ask for stuff. Can I have this? Can I have that? Can you show me this? What if yes? And the answer is yes, 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 yes. You can have all these things. So then it's just a matter of how we control and how we organise the rollout of that type of thing, and then increase the velocity of the enterprise. And that's really the core and the key sitting underneath here is this is a system that allows your teams to collaborate in lifetime wherever they are and respond in an orderly way in a transparent and visible way from portfolio to run sheet and get things done. And what we've found is the velocity just increases and increases and increases and increases, and then you wonder where this is really all going to end, because the speed is starting to get interesting in terms of that. All right, let's have a look at the next page. This is, again, I've actually simplified this one, but it's still too complicated. So each of our projects gets a project action plan. This is DI Systems project plan. So this is the internal project for my company. It's purely aimed at continual improvement and enhancing the machine that we operate, which we call Design Industries. So there's got one KPI on this project, and that's to spend the money. So I want 80 hours expended against this project each month, no matter what. Because if I'm not investing in ourselves going forward, if we're not going forward, we're going backwards. Right? So it's always making sure we can pick up the new, and it's amazing, again, and I thank my guys, we've seen the velocity increase. You know, we get an idea, bang, bang, it's in, it's there, 10 minutes later. We've got something new. We're more empowered than we were, you know, yesterday. That's an extraordinary thing. So again, just contextual information. You want to know the budget, you need to know the load, what's your creative version resolved. You can see we're smashing it in, you know, we're completing a lot, we keep on putting more and more in. And then we just put the information that we need. What's the error reports? What's critical? What do I need to know? You know, it's like, what's overdue? Something's got to happen. Someone's been let down because we haven't hit our date. So what's the process to be able to deal with those things? So as you can see, very, very rich. But all that's doing is just displaying JIRA issues in a wiki page designed for the consumption of the person who wants to read it. And just it so happens I like looking at it like that. So we can, there's different ways. So, you know, that's always a classic in the agile thing. You know, what's done? Done is done is done is done is done. How can we define that? I'm not sure. But it's really, we get it done and then it'll go into close and then it disappears out. So again, this is a drag and drop environment. So if we wanted to say something from approved, for example, and drop it into in progress, or you can go from approved into, or not. Computers. They do work most of the time. But that's an interesting thing as well. It's just around, yeah, our reliance on software systems and how that's evolved. And I've really seen that. I've really seen that evolve. And it really comes down to the evolution of systems from, yeah, they were there, our web systems are out there. Now they are mission critical. Mission critical. If your e-commerce website stops working, trust me, you'll be calling me really quick. If your email switches off, you'll know about it. And if your production team loses their system, they're going to want to know when's our DR. You know, how long does this take? Have we got 5 seconds failover? Or is it 2 minutes? What? This takes us half a day? And then the CEO will walk in, what's going on? You know, there's a lot to this. The environment has changed, and what it really requires is an attitudinal change from everybody involved, from the run sheet guy to the developer, to the project manager, to the executive, in relation to what we're doing in relation to this. We have to manage it differently. We have to be in control. We have to have this happening, because if the e-commerce site goes off, it's millions of dollars. If our inventory goes haywire, we're in a lot of trouble. So these are the things. All right, so that's probably, I'm not sure of the time in terms of how we're traveling there. Beautiful. All right, so what I'll do is perhaps at this point in time take a couple of questions, and then we'll see how we go. So we've seen a lot of things. We jumped into the tool a little bit. I'm not sure what people would like to see. So perhaps please let us know some questions. Do you perceive difficulties in implementation? What's holding you back now? What's the most exciting thing that you can see there? And what would next steps? So these are some examples of perhaps some things you might like to ask. Barry?
Michael, you mentioned that you took the 1% Salesforce and put it into the lesson software. So does that mean you've discontinued using Salesforce at all in here?
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I was paying Salesforce $100 and something per month per license, and now I get the same thing better, and it's going to cost me nothing. Swap in. Dankeschön, Dankeschön. Yeah, and that's extraordinary. And even on the HR side, like, so we're now building HR software essentially, but you know, it hasn't taken us very long. It's taken us, I don't know, 10 hours. And now I've got a new function available to me. So I've got a new service available from our IT team that's going out to our organisation to be able to deliver that service. And again, you know, HR is a classic. You know, how much time gets wasted? You're sitting there, you've got all these resumes, you're shuffling, you're going from one team to the other to try and, you know, you've got to go and interview my tech guy, and you've got to go visit someone else. And it's just being able to manage all that and just be able to pull that together on the spot is an incredible opportunity. Yeah. That's right. Yo!
Very loud voice anyway. So what would you say are some of the top add-ons that you found in your experience when you're looking at an enterprise? And you mentioned talking about managing, you know, people's time, etc. What are some of the key plugins that you use within your Atlassian stack?
Sure, thanks for that. Okay, so yeah, resource management, classic. Yeah, who's doing what, when, how many hours have we got available in Team B versus the tasks that are assigned. So one of the very popular plugins is Tempo. So, well, there we go, Tempo timesheets. So from my organisation, Tempo timesheets is critical because we don't sell widgets, we sell time by the hour. Well, we sell an hourly rate, we actually sell it by the minute because we can. So with a time tracking tool like Tempo, allows you to build sort of team review, team views, accounts, for example. So we do certain things with some organisations where they need different control over their budget. They need to break up budgets for training and support versus development, because they're different cost centres and different people that contribute to those. So they want that information from us when we're putting which task are we working on for a particular client, and then which cost centre is that aligned to. So that gives us that information. Obviously lots of reporting in relation to that. Tempo Planner is going to allow you to do resource management. So it's a drag and drop environment where you've got your cards, you've got your teams, you know how many hours available, and you can start to schedule in work. So that's a really useful tool as well. So probably Tempo is one of the top. But I guess there's the Atlassian plugin, so always going JIRA Agile, always going, well, you know, it's JIRA Confluence, JIRA Agile, HipChat, and Tempo are just the base always. But yeah, it's interesting with a couple of organisations that we've been working with who are probably a little bit more conservative and need to work with a waterfall style project management. We're putting Gantt charts in, and it's just really quite effective. It's, you know, it's just visual interface, do all the linking, and then they're comfortable. So again, it's just being able to how you want to manage your projects. Yeah, thank you. That's a good one.
I'm very interested on the hierarchy of requirements. So do your team using some add-ons of the JIRA to manage the hierarchy of the stories or epics or something else?
Sure. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I guess at its foundation, so JIRA is going to support objects and supports object linking, which theoretically will give you the ability to provide that hierarchical. But what you're really looking for is some scaled agile framework. We've got our tasks and our projects taking place down here. But there's other elements going on, such as business objectives, business benefits that we want to be able to track and relate our projects to. So yes, we can link them. There's a plugin, issue hierarchy. I think we had it there before, issue organizer. It allows that portfolio style view. So yeah, you've got a particular task, you can link down into multiple projects or a project or a particular type of task or however you want to do it, it's JQL. And then report that information back up, and then you get a sort of that percentage complete. Well, now there's the scaled agile framework. It's good. It's good. It's much simpler than it looks, but it's just concepts that are really the main thing to get through with the scaled agile framework. But yeah, that's how we do it. So we're doing portfolio management for a couple of our clients. We do a lot of project management, obviously, and then there's the team lead. We do it all in terms of the Atlassian stack. But are you doing portfolio management at the moment, or trying in an agile sense? Not yet. Yeah, it is always been a challenge because and that's what we discover, or I've discovered these days, the information challenge within the organisation is huge. There's so much going on in terms of data floating around. And you've got the executives, got their long-term plans, and got long-term strategies, but you've got short tactical decisions happening on a day-to-day basis as well. And it's just, we need that, that connection, that alignment between those two things. So that's what the Scaled Agile framework is designed to support. So Agile as a project management methodology has sort of been seen to be criticised a little bit in relation to its ability to scale to the enterprise. Can you run an enterprise in an agile way? And theoretically yes, and there's organisations doing it, and I still say it's going to be the Commonwealth Bank who are going to be the first to claim it in the country, and then look at everybody else. That's all I can say. There's got to be some questions. So what's stopping you putting everything that you've got, every service that you could possibly do that your business produces into a service desk, into a service catalogue? Is there anything specifically stopping you today? Do you have the data? Do you have the process? What's missing from the equation? Resources. So that's internal, the staff.
Busy doing their jobs, so
Okay, yeah, so that's classic. That's exactly what we see all the time. So we've got business as usual teams, they're absolutely flat out anyway, trying to up to their armpits and alligators, and it's like, okay, we want to migrate into something else and want to go and do it. And they're like, when?
Yeah, well, it's even, we have JIRA already, but taking advantage of all of its wealth of stuff takes time. Because someone has to understand what it is and how to put it together.
Yes. So that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
You know why? Because that is why you need us.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at what we can accomplish just with a short whiteboard session. Because it's just like you're here and you want to go there, and we've got the benefit of the expertise. We've been across sectors, we've seen different implementation, we've seen good, we've seen bad, we've been innovative ourselves. So you'd be surprised in terms of how much effort it actually takes to implement. It's not that much. We're talking 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to do big things. And so that's where you involve a team like us, where we just come down, we'll visit with you and provide the benefit of our experience, ask those questions and solve those problems for you. And then what we're looking to do is build an ongoing relationship with you. So we look to form ongoing relationships where we engage in continual improvement, because we need to continually be pushing forward on this, because unpack the stack is going to be forever. Because if you're in on-demand, you're going to get new features every couple of weeks, and new possibilities given to you every couple of weeks. And if it's install, it's every quarter. So what are we doing to unlock this potential that's in front of us? And the way I look at it is, turn the traction control off one day so you guys can really drive it hard. Yeah, perhaps you need to speak.
Thank you.
Yeah, classic problem though. I see it pretty much everywhere, which is we're absolutely flat out and just need this fixed. This comes fixed. What other challenges are going on out there in service desk learning?
G'day. Just got a question about managing fixed price budgets to then allowing a client to want to engage in the agile methodology, and how you educate them and also control that budget with your burn rates and policy that you apply to the deliverable.
Sure, yeah. I had to go through that moment, precisely that myself. And there's a before Agile and then there's the after Agile moment for everybody. And that's that moment when the light bulb goes off. You go, aha, I now understand it and how it works. And once you get to that point, there's some comfort. But for services industries where you want to try and implement in an agile way, and you go into organisations where they say, don't use that word around here, we're waterfall, and I've had that, right? It's like, just don't say that word. Okay. So what it is now, we sort of insist that that's the way we're going to work, because everything else is impossible. If you want a fixed price scope, or fixed price, I have to fix the scope, which is virtually impossible anyway, because we can't write the scope properly in the first place. To get it, to describe something perfectly is impossible. So we get to a point where we're in a catch-22. We can't describe it, and we don't really know the price. And even if we could describe it, because we're agreeing with the client, this is really, really, really what they want, and we might even get it perfectly right, they're wrong. They won't have it perfectly right because they think they know what they want, but when they go, oh, they look at it and they go, oh, you know what, I really need it just a bit different. Okay, that's normal, because they're trying to imagine something that they haven't got, that they haven't seen. It's not like buying a car where you can go, oh, I know what I'm getting. You're buying an idea, you're buying a concept. So the Agile methodology says that you're going to get better quality in shorter time, and it's going to cost you less. It's a big promise, but you're going to get a better result. And that's what we've been doing a lot with is, you know, the proof of concept. We're going to just give you a proof of concept, we're going to de-risk and show you we can do something, it costs a small amount of money, and then we're going to go on to do a minimum viable product, something you can use, and it's going to cost the minimum amount we can possibly make it cost you. So you can realise the benefits straight away. Because that's part of it. It's like, you know, if we're going from a Daihatsu Charade to a P1, you know what? Even if we're doing it badly, we're going to get a much, much, much better lap time. So we just want to take that step. Let's get the MVP in there. And that's really what it is. It's like if someone wants a fixed price, then you're going to need to give them a fixed deliverable. So typically you can just double the price to manage your risk, and then just come really, really hard on the requirements. Go no, 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 until you get to the point where you've kind of delivered, and then you've got your budget, and you decide what you're going to do with it. I think it's a failed methodology. It's just ridiculous. How can you ask someone how much this unknown is going to cost? You know, it's like, when's the due date? It's like, when are you going to approve it? You know, it's just realistic. Yeah. So did that help? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I'd suggest go and do an agile training course. That was what really helped for me. But at the end of the day, it's just having that conversation with whoever's in front of you. It's like, we want to deliver a project effectively. This is proven to do it. This is why and how. So, you know, skill up on what it is about agile that's going to make it work. So it's short steps, continual feedback, and respond to change. It's just accepting and embracing change.